Okay, welcome back to our Monday night marathon. Getting ready for a 3-day Yom Tov, sponsored by the Fogel family, Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yodaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tziv Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Tzim ben Yaakov Zeb, for Fush Shalema for Moshe ben Miriam, and for a great shidduch quickly for Chayat Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, great shidduch for Bati Bas Sarah. By Baruch Ian Nishmas Yaakov Chaim and Abba Esther Bas Yonah Abraham ben Shmuel HaKohen, L'Refuah Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, L'Refuah Shalema for Yosef Shmuel ben Miriam, for a great healthy mommy and healthy baby. Eddie texted me today his daughter's other name. Let me see it quickly, if I can find it. Yes, Lior Sarah Bas El Zarivka, Lior Sarah Bas El Zarivka, and Ariel Bas El Zarivka, Lior Sarah. Okay. They should have healthy baby and healthy mommy. Regards from Eddie to everybody. So now, as I said, we have a very cryptic and enigmatic comment over here in the Gemara. Rav Chanina Mishmei de Rabbi Shalach Rav Chanina Mishmei de Rabbi Yochanan Lo Yishanu Ela La'achar Kapar. When do we say that you don't have to bring the loaves? And that's what we said. That is, when do we say that the extra carbon, you don't have to bring the loaves? That's only after the atonement. But before the atonement, unin lechem. Now what does that mean? You only have to bring the lechem with one. It says hataida. Hava ba Rav Amram. Rav Amram was wondering, ahai, ilema achalifei taidas chayvis taida. Here we have a case where Nachman says Hari Alai Taida. Hari Alai Taida means that if he loses it, he has to bring another one. So if it's in exchange for an obligatory Taida, well, Ilifnei Kapara Tanina, if he brought it before he atoned with another one, then we learned that he has to bring the loaves. Ila'acha Kapara Tanina, and we learned if he brought one of them already, the second one doesn't need the loaves. So what are you talking about? Ella, this is a different case. Achalife toidas nedava. That means that Nachman said Arizu toida. There, if it gets lost, he doesn't have to bring another one. So there, if then Nachman appoints another one, that was unnecessary to appoint another one. And therefore, if he appoints another one, that's a new carbon taida. So of course that needs bread. Ela chalife taidas nedava bein lefnei kapara bein la'achar kapara. Whether he was before he received the atonement from the first one, whether he or even afterwards, tunas lechem. Why? Because since he said Hari Zed Nedava, he didn't have to bring a second one. When he separated a second one, Ma'arba b'taidasu, that's just a new taida, and of course it needs lechem. Ella avlad taidas nedava. It must be talking about the offspring of a nedava. Now the offspring of a nedava, well, the offspring of an offspring is not the original one. So bein lefnei kapara, whether he brought the original one, bein la'achar kapara, ain't tun lechem, because that's not hataida. That's just the moisa de taida. You know what it must. This is the way to unravel it. El avlad taidas chayva. What happened is Nachman said Hari Alai taida. He lost it. but the animal gave birth. Lifnei kapara, if he didn't separate, if he didn't bring yet a replacement, so then this offspring could be a replacement. Ton lechem. Lacha kapara, if he already brought a replacement for his alai, then ain't ton lechem, because it's a vlad. A vlad normally doesn't need lechem. And my kamash malon, what's the chiddush? It's an interesting chiddush. The Kesavar Rabbi Yochanan Adam Miskaper B'Shvach Hektish. That a person could be Miskaper, he could bring as his commitment of a lie the offspring, even though that offspring was really born from the property of Hektish, because the Taita was Hektish, yet Nachman could fulfill his responsibility with it. Now, Hoiba Nami Abaya Ki Gavna. Abaya also wondered about this. And also, Itmar Nami Am Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef Am Rabbi Yochanan. Chilufei Toidas Nedava, the exchange for Toidas Nedava, since you don't have to replace it. Because he said Harizu, you don't have to replace it. Bein Lufnei Kapara, Bein Lacha Kapara, if you did appoint another one, that's a new Toida. It's Marba B'Toidas. Tuna lechem, because it's Marba B'Toidas, you're just adding another Toida. Vlad Toidas Nedava, the offspring of a Toida of a Nedava, where you don't have to replace anything. Well, the offspring is not a Hat Toida, it's only a Meiser. Bein Lufnei Kapara, Bein Lacha Kapara, ain't Tuna lechem, because it's Meiser the Toida. Vlad Toidas Chayva, where Nachman said Hari Alai, and the animal gave birth. So lifnei kapara, if he didn't bring a replacement, tunas lechem. Then if he brings the vlad, it is its replacement, then it needs lechem. Lacha kapara, if he brought a replacement, then ain't tunas lechem, because then it's just a meiser, and that doesn't need lechem. Now the Gemara mixes the pot. We know that by a chatas, there's halacha l'mishmi Sinai, that certain chatas have to die. For example, the vlad of a chatas, the tmura of a chatas, they have to die. So Amar Shmuel, kol shebechatas mesa, any case by where the chatas, it would have to die, b'toida ein tuna lechem. So in an analogous case, by a taida, it doesn't need loaves. Now, an example of that, which is easy to follow, is a vlad chatas. A vlad chatas has to die, and by a taida, it doesn't need the 40 loaves. The same thing is true of the tmuras chatas. The tmuras chatas has to die, but and a tmuras taida doesn't need the 40 loaves. Kol shebechatas roya, there are certain sin offerings that we say that they should pasture until they get a mum. Then b'toida tuna lechem. Then by a toida, it needs to be accompanied with loaves. So Masiv Rav Amram, so Rav Amram asked, we're going to have a big problem with this rule. Big problem. Mahu Omer, HaToida Yaakov. What do we learn out from HaToida Yaakov? Minayin l'mafish toida seva avda. How do we know that if you separate a toida and it gets lost? V'hifresh acheres tachteh, and you separate a replacement. V'nimtzis a rishayna, and you found the original one. Varishteyem oimdais, the two of them are standing there. Minayin sheizmen sheyirtzi Yaakov v'lach ma'ima. How do we know that whichever one you want, you could bring the bread with it? Talmud Leimer HaToida Yaakov. Yochel teish niyah tuna lechem. I might think that the second one also needs lechem. Talmud Leimer yakrivenu echad v'lo shnayim. So that means when Nachman separated a taida, lost it, separated a second one, found the first one, he had both of them there, so we say whichever one he wants to bring as the main taida he can with the lechem. The second one he brings without the lechem. But wait a second. that would mean that by a chattis, the second one would die, because we said whatever is offered without the lechem, by a chattis has to die. But that's not the rule. If Yisrael separated a chattis, lost it, separated a second one, and then found the first one, he offers one, and the second one is left out to pasture. It's not left to die. If Yisrael separated a chattis and it got lost, he separated a second one. He atones with the first one, which with one of them. Ushniya Thomas, but that's only Shitas HaYachad, Divrei Rebbe. The Chachamim say, Ein Chatas Meisa, Ela Shenimtzas La'achar Sheniskapru Bailam. The only time a Chatas is left to die is only when the first one is found after they already offered the second one. But if they're both there, but according to you, it says that wherever the Chatas is raya, the animal, the taida is brought with lechem. But here the second one is left out to be raya, but the second one doesn't get lechem, only the first one gets lechem. Says the Gemara, Shmuel Kerebi Svirle. You're right. Shmuel holds like the Shitas Yachid, that the Amar Avuda B'Shas Afrosh Mesa. That if it was lost even just when you separated the second one of them has to die. So that's Enochanami. That's why the second one doesn't have bread. Says the Gemara, but we said V'kol shebechatas roya, then it is offered with bread. According to Rebbe, what's the case of a chatas roya? El roya l'Rebbe heichi mishkachsla. Oh, you know how we have a case where a chatas is left to pasture? That's if Shalom came to Yerushalayim and brought two chatases just lachrayas. He's a careful guy. Going up to Yerushalayim already, I don't want to get caught stuck. Something happens to my first one, then I'll have a second one. El royal Rebbe Heichem Mishkachsa Kid Reb Oishia. The Amr Reb Oishia Hifr Shtei Chatas Lachrayas. If you separate two chatas so that you should have a backup, Miskaper Be'ezim Em Sheyirtzav Hasheni Tirya. Says the Gemara, yeah, but you said that wherever we say Bechatas Roya, then we say that by Taida you bring Lechem. But if you separated a Taida for Achrayas, the second one doesn't get Lechem. The second one that was separated for Achrayas doesn't have Lechem. Says the Gemara, you're right. There is no Chatas that's left to be pasture. He holds like Reb Shimon Damar Chomish Chatos Mesas. 5 chatas have to perish. It's halachim Sinai. There's no case where a chatas is left out to pasture. But there was 2 parts to the statement. Kol shebechatas mesa. Then by the Torah there's no lechem. Kol shebechatas raya. So you see there is a case of chatas raya. V'ay raya Reb Shimon Lesley Klau says Gemara Taki, you're right. We're going to amend it. There's only one statement. Kol shebechatas mesa. The Torah doesn't have lechem. Shmuel Nami Choda Kamar. He only says one thing. Kol shebechatas mesa, b'toyda ain't tuna lechem. Aye, then what's the chiddush? My kamash malon. Lafuke mi Rabbi Yochanan da Amar Adam niskaper b'shvach hektish. That in the event that you separated a toida and it got lost, and you said Hari Olai, and it had a child, you could offer the child. Kamash Malon Dalai, you can't use Shvach Hektish, because a child by a Chatas would die. So over here, the child never gets bread. Amar Abba. Zu toida v'zu lachma. If let's say Dr. Block says this is my toida and this is its bread. Over alechem, if he loses the 40 loaves, maybe lechem acher. He could bring other bread to connect to the animal. Of the toida, if he lost the toida, ain't a maybe toida acheres. He can't bring another toida. Rather, he has to redeem the bread. He can't bring another toida. My timer, simple. Lechem leglal toida, because lechem is brought as an adjunct to the toida, but the ain't toida leglal lechem. The animal is not an adjunct to the bread. Vamarava. Hifrish mois l'toidasai. Let's say, let's say Gedalia separates money for his sacrifice. Right? Separates money. V'nitaisu. And he has extra money left over. Maybe b'hem lechem. He could buy the bread with the leftover money. Maybe b'hem lechem l'lachmei toida. However, l'lachmei toida, if he separates money for the bread, v'nitaisu, and he has leftover money, ain't maybe b'hem toida. That he cannot use to buy the toida. My timer. Ilay mamishim Rav Kana dam Rav Kana menayin l'lachmei toida shenikra toida. How do we know that the bread of the taida is called the taida? So therefore, if he had extra money that he separated for the taida, he could bring it for the bread, because that's also called the taida. Shenema v'hikriv al zevach ha-taida chalois matzah. He brings the zevach ha-taida chalois matzah. So you see, that's called also a taida. Iachi ipchanami. Since it's called the taida, so if he set aside money for the bread, shouldn't he be able to use it for the sacrifice? Says, well, no. Lechem ikri taida. The lechem is called taida, but taida is never called lechem. Taida lo yikre lechem. Taida is never called lechem. Now we have a very, very interesting Gemara. Very interesting Gemara. I really give everybody credit. It's not easy to hang in there on such a busy time of the year. Some people will be yet going out shopping or cleaning or a lot of different things to be done. Like Rav Shach says, you spend time losing Torah, you'll never regret it. Never regret it. Using. Vamarava. Hifrish Taidasa. We need a special character for this. Mark Frankel. There he is, the guy who's playing possum. After this, I know why he's playing possum. So Vamarava. Hifrish Taidasa. Mark separates a Taida. Vavda. And he loses it. Mark's losing it. The chaz of hifresh acheres tachteh. So he separates the second one. This is Mark from Bela Kinwood. The avda, he loses the second one. So then the chaz of hifresh acheres tachteh. Then he separates a third one. And then he found the first two. So now he has 3 taidas. V'nimtzu arishaynus, v'arishloshtan aimdais. So the Gemara is going to be really surprise us. The first opinion here is a very big chiddush. Niskapa b'rishayna, if he offers the original one, then shniya ain't tuna lechem. Then the second one doesn't need lechem because it was the replacement for the first one, and a replacement doesn't need lechem. But shlish is tuna lechem. But the third one needs lechem because it's not a replacement of the second one because the second one never needed lechem. So the first and the third need lechem. Niskaper b'shlishis, if he atoned with the third one, then shnia ain't a tuna lechem. The second one doesn't need to be accompanied by lechem. But rishayna tuna lechem. The first one does need lechem. Be'emtsois, but if he atoned for the middle one, shteyin ain't tunas lechem. Both the first and the third that were right next to it doesn't need lechem. Abaya says, no. Abaya looks at it the way I think all of us automatically look at it. They're all replacements. He said, he brought a replacement the second one. He lost that one. He brought a replacement the third one. I don't care which one he brings. The second one doesn't need bread. Because they were all brought as replacements. And now the Gemara says we're going to segue the same idea by a chattas. Amar Rabbi Zeira v'chein le'inyan chatais. Hifrish chatasai v'ovda. He separated a chattas, it got lost. V'hifrish acheres tachta, he separated a second one instead, v'ovda. This is Mark, got lost. V'hifrish acheres tachta, he separated a third one. V'nimtzu arishaynus, he found the first two. V'arishloshtam eindes. Niskapa b'rishayna, if he was niskapa with the first one, shnia tamas. The second one has to die. I'm not sure if this is only according to Rebbe. We'll learn Bapash, this is according to Rebbe. So Shnia Thomas, the second one has to die because it was the replacement for the first one. Shlish is Tira. The third one is left out to pasture. Niskapa b'shlishis, Shnia Thomas, the second one next to it dies. Rishayna Tira. Niskapa b'emtsois, both of them die. The first and the third, Shtein Yamusu. Abaya says no. No matter what, they were all replacements. Abaya mafilun iskapa be'achasmem, whichever one he atoned for, Shteim Yamusu, Kulun Chalif and Adodinin. Says the Gemara, well, duh. It's the same cases. Why do we have my v'chein? Maud, the same Hosim who maybe we could say by the Toida that a later one needs lechem. He's adding extra Toidas. You can't say you add chatois because the chatas can't be bought from the dava. I might say everybody holds that all of them have to die. Kamash Malan. Now, Tani Rebbe Chia. Toida shinis arva b'tmurasa. A toida that gets mixed up with its exchange. Now, we all know, we learned in the Mishnah Yom, it's a whole Masechtas Tamura. It's an Avera to do a Tamura. You're not supposed to say Zeh Tachazeh. But if you do say Zeh Tachazeh, they're both holy. The original one and the new one. And we said we learn out from HaToida that only the original one gets the lechem, the Tmura doesn't get lechem. So Toida shenis arva b'tmurasa, if the two of them got mixed up, and then umeisa achas mem, and then one of them died, chaver ta'ein la takana. We don't know what to do with the other one. If it's the original, it needs 40 loaves. If it's the Tmura, it doesn't get 40 loaves. And as the Gemara explains, heichi navid, what should we do? Nakriv lechem b'hada. Should we bring bread with it? Dilma Tmuri. Maybe it's the exchange, and the exchange doesn't get bread. Loi nakriv lechem b'hada. Should we not bring bread? Dilma toidehi. So the Gemara says, well, why is it such a problem? Heichi dami. We'll go back to Mark. Hechidami. Ida Amar Alai. If Mark originally, when he said the Taida, he said Alai, that means he has to replace it. Since he can't do it with this animal, he has to bring another animal with bread. And then simple. If the one that survived the mix-up is the Tmura, HaTaida, this new one is my Taida v'alachma, and here's its bread, making up for my responsibility of Hari Alai. If the one that is left over from the death of the two is the Taida, halachma, that's its bread. And this extra animal that I'm offering over here is only a backup. And he offers them, and he offers them. We remember, the backup doesn't get lechem, and then he offers it, and he says whichever one. If the original one that's left is a tmura, so then this one that I'm bringing now is my responsibility for a lion. It's lechem. If the original one is the taida, then this one I'm offering is a backup, and a backup doesn't have lechem. Says well, it's talking about where he said this one. If he said this one, there's no backup. Because you don't have to bring a backup, because by zu there's no need to replace it. However, the Gemara says we could think of other solutions. This was an interesting challenge in the Beis HaMedrash. Amru meidim lifnei Rebbe. Remember, let's get the case that we have. Mark, first of all, he was up to mischief. He made a Tmura. So he had the original Taida and a Tmura. They got mixed up. And then one of them died. So we don't know which one it is. Is it the original that needs 40 loaves, or is it the Tmura that doesn't? So Amru Lameidin Lifnei Rebbe, those that learnt in the presence of Rebbe says, well, V'laisi lechem, bring 40 loaves. V'leima, and say like this. Ihak dekaima taida, if the one that Mark had left over was the original taida, halachma, this is its bread. Eloi, if not, so then lepak l'chulin, let the bread go out l'chulin. Says, well, we can't say that because we'll be left with chulin in the azara. And we don't want to have chulin in the azara. I'm a little bit machnis and chulin in the azara. So then this was the idea that came to me right away. It's a very simple idea. Let Mark bring another animal and lechem with it. V'laisi behema v'lechem, v'leima iach dekaima tmurahi. If the one that's left is the tmura that doesn't need loaves, so then this new animal is a taida with lechem, ha taida v'alachma. Iach dekaima taidi, if the original animal that's left is a taida, then ha lachma, this is its lechem, and this animal that I'm offering now should just be a shlamim, ha tavi shlamim, which doesn't need lechem. Says, well, no, you can't do that. Because since it's possible that it has to be a taida, you could only eat it for 1 day and 1 night. But if it's a shlamim, it's 2 days and 1 night. And you're not allowed to make a shlamim restricted to 1 day and 1 night, because you could bring shlamim to a quicker psul. Amalahu mishum dekamamait, you possibly are minimizing the achila of the shlamim. Okay, we did it. Bravo to all of us. Now, tomorrow night, we're not out of the woods yet, Rabbi say. Got a challenge for tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Bedika night. Tomorrow night shir is 9:45. Tomorrow night you'll put a Shelley, Irving, you'll put it out on the thing, 9:45 tomorrow. And there might be, for late nighters, after the shir, there might be also a shir for the Shabbos table. I'm not sure about that, but it's I'm going to try.